I just don't like the idea that a woman in that moment, all she is boiled down to is woman, not professional, not broadcaster, not the lead person in that situation, which is what she is. She's a leading broadcaster in that situation. And it was just, I don't shake hands with women.
There's a difference. I'm sorry, but you're seriously telling me if you had to choose between Khabib, who doesn't shake your hand out of respect, that's his cultural opinion of how to respect a woman, is not to lay a hand on her, or McGregor, who's the product of Western culture, a rapist drunk who's disrespectful and dishonourable, a dishonourable fighter. I'm sorry, but you'd be an idiot to seriously think that Khabib is the problem here.
Hamid Koskan, I mean, they're portraying him as a free speech hero. There is no blasphemy law in this country. I think there should be, personally. I think there should be a blasphemy law, simply because we're a multicultural society. And I would say that if a Muslim went outside a synagogue and burnt a Torah, then that Muslim should expect a jail sentence. You know, that's what I would say. And I think all religions should be protected because we live in a multicultural society where people do get offended.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another episode of Muslims Uncensored with me, Robert Carter, and Roshan Saleh. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, salam, Robert.
Now, I want to dive straight on into this because there's been a lot happening, and in particular, your Twitter account.
So no witty intro this week, no smart-ass intro.
Yeah, smart ass. But yeah, I want to go in because your tweet has really alarmed me. That's what I want to start on this one. I thought it actually kind of made me laugh, but then I realized how serious it actually was. So basically, you've been causing a stir on Twitter, and one of the tweets you posted out was a poll, and it was a poll asking what would people like to do to Muslims in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think you asked people, okay, no Muslims respond to this. I want to know what non-Muslims would do to Muslims if they got a chance to let their fetishes fly or whatever it is. And the options were be eliminated, be deported, or allowed to stay in Britain. And shockingly, 13% of those people asked actually said that they would like Muslims to be eliminated in Britain. Quite a fair chunk said that they wanted Muslims deported, while 51%, I suppose that's a good thing, are happy for Brits to stay. So yeah, there's a sizable minority there who just want Muslims eliminated, whatever that means.
Dead.
Yeah, and it's like, how? Dead how? Like, how are they going to do it? They're going to...
Well, that could be my next poll, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want the rack, electric chair? What do you want it to do? Throw us in the sea. All right, so first of all, this is a bit of an unscientific poll, no doubt about it. I'm not saying that this is like YouGov, poll or something like that.
Gov.
And it's Twitter as well, which is very, very right-wing. Now, I deliberately asked Muslims or non-Brits not to respond to this poll. Usually when I do a poll, I get about 5,000 people over 24 hours responding. This one, it's quite small, 468 votes, and that's because I restricted it. However, I was not too surprised at that because I think it's over. I think it is exaggerated because I don't think the Twitter population is representative of the British population as a whole. So I think we can take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. However, I don't think the numbers are too far off the mark. So we'll say 13% of respondents want Muslims dead. Now, I think it's an anonymous poll. So I think most people are likely to be truthful because it's anonymous. You can't tell who they are, so they'll tell the truth on what they want. So 13%. Now, if that was extrapolated to the British population, that would equate to about 10 million people want Muslims dead. Now, I don't believe that 10 million Brits want Muslims literally dead, but I do believe quite openly that about 1 million Brits, if they could, would slay us. They would slaughter us in the streets, Nazi style. I honestly believe that. Be deported from Britain, 35%. So now we're talking about maybe, 25 million Brits want us deported, something like that. My maths is terrible. That is more believable, I think. Again, I think it's exaggerated, but I think there are tens of millions of Brits that would probably want to deport Muslims if they could force deportation. I would say at least 10 million. At least 10 million.
And that is a crime as well. Like, let's not.
Of course, that's a Nazi-style crime.
It's not like that's the kind option.
That's ethnic cleansing.
Exactly.
Compared to being killed, it is the kind option. But and alhamdulillah, the majority of people, and I think the majority of Brits, you know, non-Muslim Brits, I mean, they're not evil people. They're quite reasonable. A lot of them are very tolerant. You know, they may not share our religion. They may not worship Allah like we worship Allah. Could even be atheists, but they're reasonable in their own way. They don't want us dead. They're quite happy to have a multicultural society. So that's 51%. So that would equate to about 35 million Brits. I think the real figure is probably a bit higher than that. However, what this does show, and it's a snapshot, of course, is that there is a real extremism problem amongst a large minority of the British population. And these are basically, and my followers as well, and I reckon these are basically GB News viewers and Reform UK voters.
Could be. I mean,
what do you reckon?
People would laugh and say, look, I'm sure it's just like Roshan's followers, the weirdos or whatever, but ironically, Five Pillars and us on Twitter, we actually have a lot of right-wing white GB News type followers, because they like to troll us. Yeah. So it's quite possible that this reflects those people, those GB News viewers who actually follow us as well.
Come on, you know, a lot of GB News viewers want us dead. Definitely.
They would kill us if they could. Just look at the poll results.
If it wasn't against the law, they would kill us or forcibly deport us.
Yeah, it looks like it. I believe in that. There's a movie, I forget what it's called now, where they implement this day, like one day of the year, to just get all their human urges out to kill people.
The Purge.
Yeah. So I think that's what they want. If the
Talk
Purge,
TV lot, Talk TV viewers would be out in force on the Purge.
Basically, if a Purge we knew was going to be fair, so we'd equally kill anyone.
What is this podcast? We're fantasizing about like death.
That's the thing. Like when they made this movie, The Purge, the directors didn't realize that actually
it's going to come true.
It might come true, but it won't be an equal like, I just want to get my kill urges out. It'll be no. Where can I find the nearest Muslim person to kill? Yes, and it'll just be a genocide. It won't be an equal opportunities purge. Of everyone because we all want to kill. It's like no. They would just descend on Birmingham Muslims, and it'd just be rivers of blood. So that is the ugly truth.
Are we being alarmist here?
That is the ugly truth. Only 468 votes, but I think there is something seriously wrong with the whole country. You know? No.
I think there is a large minority of hardcore right-wing extremists in this country, and they are represented in the mainstream media by GB News, Talk TV, and in the political arena by Reform UK.
If the summer riots hadn't happened in the way that it happened, where there were gangs of white men who were based on any news they heard, anything they wanted to hear about the Southport killing, fake, from dodgy sources, whatever, as long as they heard, all they wanted to hear was just someone tell me that it's a foreigner, a black brown skinned guy who came off a boat and it's a Muslim. Just tell me what I want to hear. And then when they heard it, they went, let's go out and start smashing up mosques, pulling people out of cars and beating them up, trying to burn down hotels with foreigners inside. And like, if they die, then so be it. That's what we saw. And that was just a taste of the potential. You warned last week there could be race riots in this country and people could get killed. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, there is something very wrong here. And although, you know, we laugh and have a little pop about this poll or whatever, but there is something seriously wrong. I think this alludes to that. It's a major red flag.
I mean, we're laughing because we'd be crying otherwise, wouldn't we? It's I mean, it's I mean, I don't know, brothers and sisters, tell us, are we being alarmist here? Are we exaggerating the issue? I personally think maybe a bit later in the show or even now, we could even have a look at that poll about Reform UK.
Yes, we will be.
Basically, there's a poll. I won't say too much about it, but I do think generally that the danger of the far right is we're complacent about it as Muslims. But we'll get onto that later, inshallah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before this big story?
Which one?
Is there something else going on?
No, I mean, just in the comments last week, alhamdulillah, just drink my water. I mean, you know, lots of comments on the show last week. I think we do need to perhaps maybe have a a segment of the show where we just look at the comments, probably at the beginning of the show.
We do.
Just a 5-minute, because people take the trouble. I do try to answer or at least like some of the comments. There's a couple of people that have really taken offense to me calling Tommy Robinson a little girl.
I saw that.
Yeah. There's just not many, but 2 or 3 people. I don't know if these are older people or younger people, whether they're kind of overly infected by political correctness. And they're saying basically that I'm being very rude to young girls, and that's un-Islamic. Now, obviously, I'm of a certain age, brothers and sisters, so I come from a certain generation, and, we use that terminology a lot. And just because young people don't want to use it anymore, I'm not going to change what I say just for a, snotty 18-year-old. I'm not saying that commenter was that person, but what I'm saying, I'm not insulting young girls. There's obviously, we have daughters. We all have daughters, and we love our daughters, and Muslim men fawn over their daughters even more than their sons to a larger extent. I'm not insulting little girls. There's nothing wrong with being a little girl, but there is something wrong with a man behaving like a little girl. So that's what I was trying to say. That's where the insult came in. And if you misunderstood that, then, you need to give me a bit of husna done and know that I'm not insulting little girls. And perhaps just leave those comments now. Come on, this is like a freewheeling show. We have to show our personalities here a little bit. Sometimes we might talk a little bit loosely, but what do you want us to be? Do you want us to be robots? Should we go back to be like BBC robots? No personality, no whatsoever. Because if you want that, then this isn't the show for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we get animated here, and for the right reasons, I like to think.
Yeah, and sometimes we say things that maybe we wouldn't say, we shouldn't say. But, as long as we're not going into the haram, then I don't think there's an issue here. A bit of like poetic license every now and again.
Speaking of haram or halal or whatever, there was an incident which sparked a massive reaction online. I think, if I may be so bold as to say, I was the first one to actually, because this clip, I snippeted it.
Right.
Because I watched this segment on Sky or wherever it was. And I spotted
the handshake.
Khabib. So Khabib, the legendary MMA fighter, the Muslim MMA fighter, well known across the globe. He surprise attended a CBS Sports panel after the Champions League final. And obviously he was well received, and Thierry Henry there was welcoming him. One of the presenters was a female, and quite silly by her part, she stuck her hand out trying to give him a big handshake after he had shaken hands with all the guys. And being a Muslim, obviously he politely and humbly said, I can't shake your hand. He declined. But did the whole very kind gesture, hand on heart, just kind of acknowledging her there. Anyway, as you would imagine, all the Islamophobes, all the, gutter journalists on the right-wing media, they all came crawling out of the woodworks, condemning it, saying how Islam is misogynistic, she was forced to apologize, and the whole incident is a...
She did apologize. Did she apologize there or later?
She did. Because she realized the mistake when he politely said, salam, sorry, I can't shake your hand. She then went, oh, sorry about that. Because she then went, oh, of course, he's a Muslim man, famous Muslim man.
I think she was married to a Muslim as well, so she might know a little bit about...
So she should know. Okay, so it was a harmless mistake. Everyone moved on with their lives. It seemed like a non-issue. But of course, the right wing make an issue out of it because it's an opportunity to attack and attempt to demonize Islam. I actually have an example of the type of reaction that we saw as a result of this being shared here.
Kate felt obliged to apologize for proffering her hand. I don't think she had any need to apologize. This isn't a criticism of her at all. I just don't like the idea that a woman in that moment, all she is boiled down to is woman, not professional, not broadcaster, not the lead person in that situation, which is what she is. She's a leading broadcaster in that situation. And it was just, I don't shake hands with women. So not only was she excluded by the man not shaking her hand, by him not offering his hand to her, when she then offered her hand to him, she was expected to say sorry.
Now, that's a mild reaction to this, but I think it's a kind of genuinely ignorant reaction. Some people have an agenda. They're attacking the incident because they're saying, oh, well, that's an example of Islam being somehow a terrorist religion. You don't shake our women's hands. That makes you an extremist, and we should ban Islam in Europe. But this is a type of more innocent, I think, ignorant opinion that, oh, because he didn't shake her hand, he's rude. There's something wrong here. This should be investigated. Yeah. When in reality, Khabib was being incredibly kind and honest and humble and decent by not shaking her hand because of Islamic principles. So you and I know this very well. Our viewers will know this. But people watching who aren't Muslim, in Islam, women are protected. Their space is protected. Men do not have the right to touch a woman or to do anything to a woman unless they, like put a ring on it. If you marry a woman or if they're part of your family, then of course you have
intimate contact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But other than that, women are a protected class, you could say. They have rights which men don't have. And men do not have the right to lay a finger on a woman. And ultimately, Khabib has grown up in a Muslim society, a Muslim environment. He's a proper Muslim fighter. So he's been held to the code of Islamic chivalry and honor, which doesn't exist in the West anymore. They don't have chivalry or honor at all. And from his perspective, he was being incredibly honorable, incredibly respectful, incredibly kind by not laying a hand on her. I mean, the fact is, as a presenter in a sports environment, Khabib is one of these most world-famous Muslim athletes who famously is so successful because of his Muslim upbringing and culture. That's why all of the best MMA fighters are from where he's from. It's because they're brought up, all they do is pray and fight and train. Pray and fight and train. There's no alcohol. They don't chase women. They're not Conor McGregors, these degenerate drunks who think that they're big men because they go on camera and act all hard and are rude and disrespectful to their opponents. He's literally a modern day chivalrous knight. There is no doubt about it. But the impression from everyone watching this in the West is that, oh, there's something wrong with Khabib. But what, Conor McGregor is what, good? I mean, you look at the two contrasts here. You have McGregor, a Westerner fighter, dishonorable drunk, a rapist. And then you have Khabib, who out of respect to the woman would never touch her. Out of respect to his own wife, has promised, I'll marry you. I will never touch another woman. I'll never look at another woman. I am all yours. I am at your service for life.
Unless they're his three other wives. But yeah.
Well, yeah, we could talk about that.
A small correction there.
Well, yeah, but that's the promise he makes to all of his wives. Then there's a difference. I'm sorry, but you're seriously telling me if you had to choose between Khabib, who doesn't shake your hand out of respect, that's his cultural opinion of how to respect a woman, is not to lay a hand on her, or McGregor, who's the product of Western culture, a rapist drunk who's disrespectful and dishonorable, a dishonorable fighter. I'm sorry, but you'd be an idiot to seriously think that Khabib is the problem here. I think what this is Western culture meeting a decent culture, and it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't understand, doesn't interpret it properly. And that's what we're dealing with here. Roshan, what do you make of it all?
Well, I don't think there's an issue. I mean, I think people have just made something out of nothing here because I think there was mutual respect on all parts in that interaction. So Khabib stood his ground, following the Islamic injunction, not to touch the opposite sex if they're not a mahram. And Kate Abdo, I thought, was very respectful as well. She realized straight away. I think her first husband was a Muslim, so she's probably, very au fait with Muslim culture. And she apologized. And then he proceeded to be interviewed by her. So he showed her respect. He didn't ignore her. Absolutely. And so he showed her that respect as a professional broadcaster. She asked him questions. He answered respectfully. So there's no issue at all on any side here. People are just making something out of nothing because they're Islamophobic. And, Muslims can't win these days. Whatever we do, we can't win.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is something that gets weaponized because I think there have been incidents as well in the past where Muslims in the media have not shaken the hands of a woman, especially in countries like these Scandinavian countries. If you do that, you can get in trouble. They'll penalize you legally and stuff like that, or with the law. They'll brand you some kind of extremist and you should be worthy of deportation, But it's like the West needs to understand that Khabib and Muslims in general, we follow a tradition of honor and respect, and our interpretation of what is respectful for a woman is different to what the West is peddling right now. I actually have a tweet which was posted by someone called Bruce Fenton. He sums it up in a very interesting way. So he's responding to a guy on Twitter called Charlie Kirk, who says Islam is not compatible with Western civilization, as if that's some kind of bad thing. And Bruce says, you're right, Charlie. You're absolutely right. Islam isn't compatible if by Western civilization you mean a welfare state, OnlyFans culture, a woke degenerate ideology, transitioning kids and the LGBT indoctrination agenda, forcing women to allow men into their sports and personal spaces, destruction of family values, godlessness and degeneracy. And this is something which I agree with as a Westerner who has embraced Islam, who has left Western decadent culture behind me firmly. Islam isn't compatible with many Western values because many Western values are a minority value system on this planet and are causing a lot of harm to Western culture and society and a lot of the problems we have. I mean, the fact is they're angry, that he didn't touch a woman. Yeah. And it's like, well, what did you want him to do? Like undress her on stage? Do you know what I mean? I mean, they value women who take their clothes off for money now.
No, I mean, in the West, women...
What do you want?
In the West, women are just sexual commodities, aren't they?
They are sexual commodities.
And that's why you see, like, for example, I've noticed...
But apparently he's treating her like a sexual commodity. What, for not touching her? It's like, what do you want?
No, even in our industry, news, you'll see that men, for example, they can be newscasters till their dying day. They're like 70s, 80s, they're still on the news, reading the news, and no one cares. No one cares because the older you get, the more trusted you are as a newscaster. But women, unless you're like in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you're beautiful, and as soon as that kind of your looks start going, and everything starts drooping a bit, it's like they don't want to be on TV anymore, And now that's sexism.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Reducing a woman to the way she looks is what the West does. But yeah, I mean, the truth is, I mean, people are going to criticize me for saying this because I'm living in the UK, but the truth is that Islam is superior to Western civilization in every single way. And the only reason why we are in this country is because, the West raped our countries and, impoverished them, and Muslims came for economic migration, which is only a 20th century phenomenon. Otherwise, Muslims didn't travel to the West at all. And now they're stuck here, but they're doing dawah and they're bringing the light of Islam to the West in a peaceful way, and long may that continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at least Islam knows what a woman is. Do you know what I mean? The West can't even tell you what a woman is anymore. And there are women, can you believe it, that there are women in the West that are fighting lengthy, major legal battles to ensure their private spaces are protected from encroaching men wearing dresses. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there was a Supreme Court verdict a couple of months ago, which basically the Supreme Court, investigated with forensic, kind of investigation skills or whatever, what is a woman? Was a woman? Yeah, what is a woman? That question. I mean, come on. Oh, that could only happen in the West. That kind of stupidity and time wasting and navel gazing could only happen in the West.
It's insane, isn't it? So yeah, you want to talk about respect for women? Sort yourself out. That's my message to the West in general. Well, having covered that pretty well, there is another major story that's happening again, related to Islamophobia and whatnot. So a atheist has been convicted after burning the Quran outside the Turkish Consulate building in London. This was footage that went viral at the time, if I remember rightly, caused quite a stir. And he's just part of a rising trend of activists in Europe just trying to offend and upset Muslims to the maximum that they can by attacking our holy book. And funnily enough, he was interviewed on GB News straight away. They were waiting outside the court for him practically to scoop him up. And you made some really hilarious commentary on this. But let's just play out the interview first of all, and then I'll play out your response.
And have you got a message to our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer?
Since my arrest, I've faced serious disappointments, especially the fact that I was prosecuted and the outcome of my prosecution. as well as the tolerance for the attacks I've been faced with, as if they're trying to punish me and protect the Islamists.
Do you think that of all the religions, Islam is the most protected, is protected differently in Britain?
I don't think that other religions are in the same position to create any kind of threat against civilization, against humanity, and against democracy.
Very lastly, quickly.
So basically, the guy can't speak a word of English. GB News, you'd expect, would attack him on that basis because he's a foreigner who can't speak the language. But no, they platform him on this occasion because he's fitting their agenda quite nicely of pushing this so-called blasphemy law agenda. Apparently, there's a Muslim blasphemy law in Britain now. That's what they're saying. So yeah, what's your reaction to this story?
Yeah, so basically, GB News hates illegal aliens who can't speak English. They've been in this country for years and years, made no attempt to speak English.
Doing crimes.
But if you burn the Quran, that's all right. You don't have to know the language at all, as long as you're a Quran burner. No, look, Patrick Christie's, so he's one of their star presenters. So I've been on GB News a few times, and he's always been actually quite civil with me. I'm not sure what he feels inside, but he's actually been very polite with me. But I would actually urge him to think about what he's doing, because GB News is a channel which is clearly fomenting hate against Muslims. And it's creating, even if they stay on the right side of the law, this is what they're doing. They're creating, just by their story selection and the obsessive story selection about Muslims, always in a negative context, and just pushing those limits time and time again on a day-to-day basis, drip, 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 they are creating a climate of hate against Muslims. Now, where is that going to lead? I can only see that ending up in violence and in rioting and in race riots and in social division and real problems on the streets of Britain. So I would urge Patrick and, anyone with a conscience. I don't believe he's an evil guy, actually. I think he probably sincerely believes some of what he's saying, but I would urge him to consider, where is this going? And should you pull back? If you're a respectable journalist, and who has the good of Britain and social cohesion of Britain at heart, don't you think you should pull back? I mean, if you and me say things which rile up Muslims, ultimately we're a small minority in this country. Nothing much is going to happen. Obviously, we don't want Muslims to be riled up by what we're saying. But, Reform UK and GB News have the majority population, in the palm of their hands, or a lot of them. And they could really do some damage to this country. So just pull back. Anyway, Hamid Koskan, I mean, they're portraying him as a free speech hero. There is no blasphemy law in this country. I think there should be, personally. I think there should be a blasphemy law, simply because we're a multicultural society. And I would say that if a Muslim went outside a synagogue and burnt a Torah, then that Muslim should expect a jail sentence. That's what I would say. And I think all religions should be protected, because we live in a multicultural society where people do get offended. And they hold apart from Christians don't get offended because they don't believe in Christianity anymore. That's the reason. But we can't shout fire in a crowded cinema. And Muslims are going to react because they love the Quran more than their own lives and their own families. And this is hitting the deepest depths of what a Muslim is. And of course they're going to react. Now, Hamid Koskan was attacked after he burned, and I don't condone that whatsoever. But, things are going to spiral out of control if you provoke. This is logic. This is just logic. And thankfully, the judge agreed with that logic. Now, there are no blasphemy laws in this country, but there are laws against inciting violence and creating a public nuisance. And that's what he was convicted on, rightfully. And he got a fine and he got a slap on the wrist. Didn't get a jail sentence, didn't get even a suspended sentence. It was a fine, a slap on the wrist, and that was it, quite frankly. So I don't see the issue here, but there are people who hate Muslims in this country, who will do anything to provoke Muslims because they probably want us dead or they want us to leave the country, So that is their agenda in promoting this so-called free speech hero, who is actually a secular fundamentalist criminal who is upsetting the social cohesion of this multicultural society.
Yeah, if anyone was worth deploying, someone like this should be deployed. But then they're actually platforming him. You know? refugees, for example, from a conflict zone which Britain started or is bombing, apparently they're not worth helping, but this kind of guy is worth helping and platforming. That's what it seems to me from GB News's logic. But yeah, I think to be serious about this, I mean, how would GB News or anyone else in this country like it if someone was to go outside a church, burn Bibles and start screaming, you know, that Christianity should be destroyed and it's an evil terrorist religion? You know, I think most ordinary Brits would find that hard to digest, and they'd be upset and
whoever did it would probably get punched in the face, quite frankly.
Yeah, exactly, quite possibly, depending on where they go. But like you said, they're just not thinking logically and smart about this. You know, there's a bigger issue at hand here. And as is quite often the case, Muslims are actually warning you about it. They're saying, look, don't go down this road. Yeah. Not just because it'll upset us, but because it's stupid for you. It's a bad idea. So many times Muslims do this, you know. I mean, all this stuff about, 9/11 and all this stuff, there were Muslims warning the West, look, if you go into Muslim lands and attack
there's going to be blowback.
There's going to be serious blowback. Yeah. And they went, oh, who cares? You know, we're getting the oil. Let's just go in, Yahoo, cowboy and everything. And then when it happens, they go, oh, these damn Muslims, they never condemn this. Why are they not condemning terrorism? They're all terrorists. Oh, they're all supporting this. And it's like, well, we did actually try to warn you, but you just don't listen. And again, with this Quran burning nonsense, we're warning you, okay? You want to start serious problems in Europe. We're not condoning it, but we can't help it if there are people out there who...
You can't control the backlash.
You can't control the backlash.
Mosques can't control it. We can't control it. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah, you know, and we're just trying to speak to you honestly about it and just warn you, this is a stupid idea. It won't serve any purpose.
You see...
But, you know, right-wingers, I think they benefit from destabilising the situation, especially all these populists. They want a bit of rioting and nastiness.
They want a Muslim terrorist attack, basically.
Yeah, and then they can benefit and, you know, obviously scapegoat.
But you know, this guy, he's free to criticize Islam in this country. And even Muslims would say, look, we're living in a secular country here with lots of different communities, freedom of speech. If he just went on the internet and did it, or did it, you know, away from a mosque or whatever, then he'd probably get away with it. I mean, you know, if he wanted, I mean, obviously I think Quran burning should be banned because I'm a Muslim. I believe it should be banned in all circumstances. But the reality is, if he did it away from a mosque or did it away from a Muslim embassy, he'd get away with it and he probably wouldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
But he deliberately decided to provoke. And I know why, because I listened to his interview with Pastor Christie's. He basically said he'd been writing for years about this and no one was listening to him. So he wanted to do a publicity stunt, and congratulations, mate, you got your publicity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, interestingly, this actually proves why Muslims are actually good people, because obviously they'll focus on, oh, he got attacked on the day or whatever. But the fact is that Muslims, if we were bad, if we were the bad guys, if we were like Israeli, let's say, our reaction might be to go out and start burning Bibles or something, or to do a genocide.
Why do we do
what
that?
Israel does. But we won't do that because we believe in respect for not just the Quran, but we actually respect other people's faiths as well. You know, although we don't believe in it and we think that they should come to Islam, we're not going to go out and start burning books, burning the Torah, for example. And I mean, that's just proof, you know, Islam is, like you said, the superior.
I think there's a hadith of the Prophet.
They're lucky we're good guys. They're lucky we're good guys because Muslims, you know, if we were the bad guys, who knows what would happen.
I think there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and viewers, you'll correct me on this because I forget whether it's a Sahih hadith or not, about, you know, not attacking the symbols of other religions, because then they will do the same to Islam, you know, and they'll mock Allah and the Prophet, you know, astaghfirullah, they will do these kind of things.
And we prioritize an intellectual debate. I mean, if you have a problem with Islam, okay, come, bring your evidences. Yeah. Go up against our learned people.
Intellectual.
And, you know, we're comfortable. Like, we literally have the truth and we're confident in it. It's a watertight argument. You come and debate us, and every time they get wiped. I mean, just look at all these YouTube debates. I have never seen a prominent Christian outright beat a prominent Muslim. No. You know, that's why Ahmadiyya, God bless him, was such a superstar, because he just, anyone who went up against him, he went up against all the Christian heavyweights and all that, he just wiped the floor with all of them, using their own books as well as ours. Yeah. So, you know, we do not condone this, but we're warning you, don't take us down this slippery road for your own sake, for our sake. No one wants to see, you know, religious war going on, you know, but it's like they're trying to force it on us.
Obviously, we are committed Muslims. We believe Islam is the best, but we live in a multicultural society. We're not looking to provoke people, get violent with people. We're just looking to make our arguments and take it or leave it, quite frankly. Take it or leave it. Since
we're in the UK, let's just stay in the UK and get all the UK stories out of the way.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about the far right and you've been warning about the power that the right has in British politics now. It's becoming quite mainstream. Well, this latest poll, which we covered on 5 Pillars, it was a pollster's electoral calculus poll. It's basically suggesting that Reform UK is well on course to comfortably winning the next general election, which would make Nigel Farage the next British Prime Minister. Quite a scary thought, to be honest with you. I don't think it's really hit home. I don't think Muslims,
I think they're quite complacent about this,
Yeah, they seem like
I think we're the only ones that are really focusing on it. I think
because I've passed the message on and people just don't seem to be
biting.
No,
they're not. I mean, I think the election is 4 years away. So if people think, lots are going to change between then and now, which might be true. It might be true. You never know what events might occur. But the fact is the groundwork is done before the election, and Reform UK are a big deal now. I remember when you and me thought they were a joke when we were up in Rochdale about a year and a half ago. And we thought they were a literal joke, and they were a joke at the time. But since then, they professionalized. They've got a lot of money behind them. They've got billionaires behind them. They've got Elon Musk behind them in terms of amplifying their message, especially on X. And obviously, Nigel Farage is a very talented political operator. He's perhaps the most consequential politician in this country, since Margaret Thatcher or Tony Blair, even, I would say. Obviously, the guy who delivered Brexit. Consequential for bad, not for good, but he is a consummate political performer. They have their media wing in GB News and, Talk TV as well, I would say. So I think that they will quite obviously, they've got 5 MPs now. I think worst case scenario, they're going to have over 100 MPs. I think best case scenario for them, they will have a comfortable majority in Parliament. More likely, I would think they would be the first or the second biggest party in Parliament. So I think they are a real threat. The question is, how do we deal with them? Now, people will say, let's vote Labour to deal with them. That is the wrong answer. But we need a joined-up thinking effort from Muslim media organisations, from the Muslim MPs, from grassroots activists, civil society activists, to the ordinary people on the ground, warning against this threat, because these guys are a Islamophobic party, openly Islamophobic. We've had subtly Islamophobic parties in the past, institutionally Islamophobic parties, but these guys are, they are just open and proud of it, or many of their members and representatives are very proud of their anti-Muslim views. So that can only mean bad news for British Muslims in terms of policy making.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I don't see any apart from us. No one's really warning against this. No one seems that interested. And I was quite surprised by the lack of action or even interest in the local elections, for example. I mean, I know it's local elections, everyone's a bit bored of it, and Muslims don't tend to mobilise for it. No. But, I mean, Reform UK certainly were, and they've recorded some serious results here. And it's aiding into this. I think that there's a conspiracy going on. Like you said, there's a big industry here that's been built up around Reform. They have their media wing, they have their political party, they have their activists on the ground, and they're getting good results now. And possibly this could be building up to putting Nigel Farage at number 10. Our response has not mobilised yet. I can't see any serious action taking place. No one's even discussing it. And I think that if we don't do something about this, there could be serious consequences. I mean, the fact is, the senior people in this party have said things like Sharia law should be outlawed. Now, obviously, they don't understand Sharia law. I don't think they physically can outlaw all of it. But this is a party that will give it a go. They'll give it a go. How would that manifest
If they
itself?
have a comfortable majority...
How would that manifest?
Robert, if they have a comfortable majority in Parliament, they can pass laws to that effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can outlaw all the Sharia courts in this country.
Expect mosques to get shut down. expect legislation to stop
imams deported,
activists jailed. Who knows how
freedom
this will
of speech
manifest.
crackdown? They'll definitely crack down on our freedom of speech
to the max. Groups outlawed as well. Bank accounts shut down, possibly. Who knows? Who knows how this could manifest itself?
It'll be a witch hunt against Muslims.
And the
no
thing
doubt
is,
about it, and Islam.
And one thing you said, because I think it's unavoidable. I think this is going to happen. Muslims will say, "Let's vote Labour." But there's two reasons. One, we shouldn't do it because of the genocide. That argument will be made. And many Muslims will ignore that argument. We saw them ignore it in the last general election. But let me say another thing about Labour now. Labour is probably almost as unpopular now, I think, generally speaking, as the Conservatives. Now, I know people say, yeah, but they were elected. Yeah, on a terrible mandate. I mean, it was a very low voter turnout. And since coming into power, all of the right-wing attacks on Labour, all the conspiracies, true and not true, on Labour, they're sinking in. And I can tell you, as someone who knows my people very well, Labour is despised. Now, if Muslims suddenly turn around and go, yeah, let's get behind Labour, it's only going to add fuel to the already growing Islamophobia fire, because one of the conspiracies is that the Labour Party is an Islamist party, basically. Can you believe it? The Labour Party, which many Muslims hate right now, is actually being spun by the right-wing conspiracy theorists that it's a Muslim, it's been taken over by Islamists, and the Islamists are pushing a Labour agenda, and Starmer is in the pockets of Muslim extremists and is trying to, protect Pakistani groomers. That is the narrative which people in this country genuinely believe. Now, if some in our community, some community leaders say, no, we need to rally behind Labour now, I think that's only going to damage and fuel Reform UK even more. So that's just a little argument I'm trying to make. The point is, don't go back to Labour. It's whatever way you look at it, it's a dumb tactic. What we need is to invest in ourselves, build up some kind of coordinated effort across the country, a nationwide Muslim network, which actually works. I think we just need to seriously sit and brainstorm, Roshan. Just literally get our people in a room
I just think
with a whiteboard and just say, how can we deal with this,
The reason why we are in the pitiful situation we're in now is because of short-term thinking, because we're always going for the lesser of two evils. That's always our strategy when it comes to elections or whatever. Yeah, and I think we just need to move away from that. And even if it means some short-term pain, even if it means Reform UK getting in a way, it might be a good thing, because I always think that harder times focus our minds. We get more organised around our Islam, get more serious about our religion when we're facing a threat. When life is a bit too comfortable, that's when we kind of fall away from Islam and our practice, our belief in our practice. So in a way, I don't welcome Reform UK coming in, and we should do everything to make that sure that doesn't happen, but not at the expense of abandoning our principles and going with Labour again. We need to. I personally think the tactic of getting more independent Muslim MPs into Parliament is a good one, but we just need to get better ones in.
Yeah, better ones in, stop the vote splitting. And there's many things we can do, many things, We just need to brainstorm and start working together, I think, and actually just getting on with things, just having an attitude of just getting on with things. There is obviously the incident in Colorado, I think. So moving over to the US now, this was a major, major story. So the US authorities have now arrested the family of the Colorado attack suspect. This is an individual who was filmed appearing to basically conduct an attack. So he was allegedly petrol bombing people. People were burned, and he targeted a pro-Israel demonstration, and a number of people were injured. What do you make of this story, Roshan? Obviously, it's
they're trying
it's a big story.
Just an update on this. They're trying to deport the family now. I think the White House has basically said they're going to deport family members, which is collective punishment, and I think illegal as well. And I think they should expect lawsuits, vigorous lawsuits against that happening, because you can't penalize innocent family members,
kids, for example,
for what someone else has done, just because they may be your father or your brother or your son, etc. That's what Israel does. That's what Hindus for India does. This is not a civilized way of conducting policy. Look, I mean, I haven't got much to say about this apart from the fact that obviously in terms of the attack itself, of course, there's no way that we can condone that. In the West, you can't just go around throwing Molotov cocktails at people who are demonstrating, no matter what they're demonstrating for. Violence is never the answer. But what I would say is that Muslims around the world and non-Muslims are seeing a genocide happening in real time. They are seeing their governments supporting the slaughter of our brothers and sisters in Gaza. They are seeing the mainstream media support that slaughter. They are demonstrating in their millions. They are seeing public opinion shift, but having no effect on the policy of supporting the genocidal state of Israel. So I think it is inevitable that things like this will happen. We've seen non-Muslims do it. We've seen Aaron Bushell set himself on fire in front of the Israeli embassy, I think it was, in Washington. I think he was an ex-American soldier. We have seen a non-Muslim shoot 2 Israeli embassy staffers dead in Washington. This guy, he appears to be a Muslim, throwing Molotov cocktails. This is born out of frustration. Obviously, it's wrong. It shouldn't happen. It's illegal, and they can expect jail sentences for it. And that is correct. But it's like we were saying earlier, you cannot control, if there's no legitimate avenue to affect public policy which is supporting a genocide, then people will resort to illegal terrorist means. It's inevitable. It's a backlash. So I think that point needs to be made, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact is that I watched some of the, mainstream coverage of the event, and they got on, obviously, Israelis and government people, and straight away they wanted to make it's all about anti-Semitism. This is purely anti-Semitism. It's got nothing to do with anything else. This is just the spread of anti-Semitism globally for some reason. Everyone hates Jews, apparently. Now, I'm not going to defend this character, but I'm sorry, there is a genocide going on. And what, you think that people are going to look on happily and just be like, oh, okay, it's just another day in the office and genocide's going on? No, it's going to, like you said, it's going to radicalize people. We know that Jewish people are being radicalized across the world.
Hindus are as well.
Hindus are being radicalized, and people who are on the other side are being radicalized as well, because they're seeing kids getting annihilated, innocent children. And there are people who can't mentally cope. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not condoning any action like this, but the fact is, for Israelis to sit there, like government Israelis, and say like, oh, I don't know why this is happening. It's just anti-Semitism. There's a poison in the world, and we've got to stamp this out. Do you know what? Maybe just stop killing kids so much.
Yeah.
That might help.
Yeah.
That might just help the crazies not going out burning people.
Yeah.
Because, you're bloody burning a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's the only thing I'll add is just,
I think we've said what we had to say.
Yeah, Israel, what can I say? Well, there's that story. And then speaking of Israel, there is the Israeli ambassador to the UK.
What's it on now? What's the petition on now?
I'll double check. I've got to bring it up. But there's a major petition that's been issued, and it's gone well over the 100,000 mark. I think it was 160K. Last I read.
More than that now, probably. More than that now.
So the Israeli ambassador to the UK, Tzipi Hotovelli, she's quite loathed and despised for understandable reasons, a genocide apologist. It's on 174. The server's misbehaving, so they've tried to.
Zionists
they're after us.
Hacking the system.
Oh, that was a clever one, you cheeky buggers. Well, we just saw that 174, I think it was on before they've taken it down.
Yeah,
the conspiracy. Well, there you go. It's not the first time it's happened. I think there have been multiple attempts to kick her out. In fact, I think there was an MP as well who actually asked the Prime Minister or the Foreign Secretary directly, "Why is she here? Would you consider getting rid of her?" So this is an ongoing campaign, and she's
a nasty piece of work. She's pro-settler. I think she was even involved with a campaign to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque, basically.
Been accused.
Yeah, I think all Israeli officials are scumbags, but she's a nasty piece of work, even compared to the rest.
Yeah, deport this bitch. I tweeted that on the day, I'll be frank. I said, deport this bitch. She's a nasty piece of work. I don't know where to deport her to, because I don't believe she should go back to the occupation. She should go back to wherever her family originates from.
Georgia.
Yeah, or wherever. Is that where she's from?
Yeah.
I thought it was America or something.
Well, no Israeli is from Israel, are they really? So
no,
they're all
European
settlers.
Yeah, European settlers. I just thought she was like...
As I said last week, Germany should give Israel a state. Israel should be in Germany. They're the ones that kill the Jews. They're the ones that have the responsibility of the Jews. They've reneged on that responsibility by paying reparations. What they should have done is carve out a state within Germany, give it to the Jews.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that's what the Zionists were all about, is like getting their Jews from the Europeans that oppressed them, then I don't think we'd have much.
Say again? Oh, yeah.
If that's what Zionism was about, we want to punish those who have killed us, the Europeans, for all of the genocide for hundreds and hundreds of years in Spain and in freaking wherever across Europe, the Crusades. They all were killing Jews time and time again. If that's what Zionism was all about, then I don't think there'd be much of an issue with it. But Zionism just picking on the Palestinians, where did that come from?
Well, you know, the Europeans were very happy to get rid of the Jews, weren't they? Because they hated the Jews, right? And they were very happy to export them to Palestine.
Yeah,
you know, so that they didn't have to be in Europe.
It's insane. I mean, I found out quite recently actually that apparently, like, Britain early on, if I'm not mistaken, was actually not taking in many Jewish refugees.
No,
they weren't up for it.
Even at the height of the Second World War, I think there's some evidence that the Americans and the British they restricted Jewish immigration.
Yeah, they were like, no, sorry,
because they were anti-Semites as well. They were anti-Semites as well.
Yeah, and I can't believe it. And then they just turn on the Palestinians, and that as always has been the case, the Muslim world has kind of been a safe haven for Jews.
Yeah,
and then to suddenly stab Palestinians in the gut like that, it wasn't even a stab in the back; it was a stab in the front. What a nasty piece of work it is. But anyway, to Zippy Hotoveli, get her out, just deport her somewhere, some island somewhere, and just let her get on with it. Because, yeah, she is a nasty piece of work. She's associated with saying things like the Nakba is an Arab lie. That's been associated to her, that quote. And she's been accused of basically being an anti-Arab racist with some of the comments that she said. That's all swirling around. And, you know, we've seen her interviews on Piers Morgan. Total disgrace.
Get her out.
Yeah,
get her out. Deport.
Deport. Yeah, absolutely. There is a story here from within our own community which we have to touch upon. It was widely shared when we released the story. East London Mosque and the trust associated to it has been hit with a damning charity watchdog warning after losing £1 million, an eye-watering £1 million after an investment gone wrong. Now, obviously, this is an older investment which the charity watchdog has been looking into, the Charity Commission, and they investigate it thoroughly. And it actually turns out that there was a failure to manage the charity's resources. They also said that proper oversight and due diligence wasn't taken by the mosque prior to the investment. The mosque itself has said in a previous statement that it was the victim of a sophisticated fraud. But the latest, this warning, the official warning issued, did kind of dispute that. That's what I found in the story. They kind of said, you know, due diligence wasn't put in place and it should have been, you know, and perhaps it would have protected them from a so-called fraud. So not good on East London Mosque. It's a major mosque, one of the most famous mosques in Britain.
Second biggest in London.
Very big establishment, and millions of worshippers, I bet, go there every year. So it's a big institution. And for them to allow something like this to happen, it's a big story.
It's a black mark on the people that run East London Mosque. I think what's happened here, Robert, is they've basically invested £1 million. Now, there's two issues here. Now, I think subsequently I have heard that heads did roll at East London Mosque. I think a couple of the trustees were either forced out or had to resign. Okay. So there has been some accountability for this, which I've discovered recently. But the very notion that they are, investment, it's not gambling in the sense that haram, but they're investing a lot of money, is taking a risk with a big pot of money. Now, I think most charities and mosques, they do this. But I think if you're talking about smaller amounts of money, it's not so bad. If they invest £50,000 into something, and if they lose that £50,000, it's bad, but it's not so bad. £1 million is a huge amount of money to lose. And that needs to be paid back somehow, because that is donor money. That's your ordinary worshipper putting £5 in a can every Friday when they pray. So this is a real dereliction of responsibility, and it poses some real questions about, are people running our mosques, Are they fit for purpose? What oversight is there over them? Should they really be effectively, gambling with our money like this? Gambling may be the wrong word, but investing it in dodgy projects. I think do people even know that our mosques and charities are investing our money in potentially, kind of risky endeavors? I think as long as they tell us that they are going to invest a portion of this money expecting a higher return, but we're only going to do it, in the safest possible way, I think most people would accept that. But £1 million, if they told me that we're going to invest £1 million of your money, I'd be like, no, maybe 100 grand, maybe 50 grand, but don't invest $1 million, That's too much.
They did say in their statement as well, I don't know what the intention was behind it, but they basically tried to say, look, we've made more money than we've lost over the years. I think they quote a figure like 6 mil. We've made like 6 mil back.
Through investments.
Through investments, something like that. But $1 million is still an obscene amount of money to lose, especially in one go like that, how the story's being described. So, I'm sure the mosque will have other things to say. We did actually reach out and try to give them an opportunity to update their statement because it was an older one, but we haven't heard back from them yet. I don't know. I think they should respond.
I think if they're going to do that...
A lot of people read the story.
I think if they're going to do that, if they're going to invest £1 million, I think the public should know. And there should be some oversight. It shouldn't just be a unilateral decision. I'm not sure if it was, but there should be some buy-in from the congregation if that amount of money is going to be invested.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to Israel, I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, it's kind of a good thing in a way, I guess, in the grander scheme of things. Although the genocide is still rolling on, unfortunately, a new survey has showed that there is a complete collapse in Israel's reputation across Western Europe. So obviously, this genocide is coming at a cost for Israel. Everyone, I think, now sees Israel through the eyes that we've seen them in for such a long time, which is they are just an evil regime. It's an evil, apartheid, genocidal, baby-killing regime, and now it's starting to reflect that. So people are not charmed by its propaganda anymore. And as you can see here from the stats, the graphs, their reputation has plummeted on all fronts.
France, and this Britain, is in countries Germany. That traditionally support Israel.
Yes, France, Britain, Germany. And a lot of these countries, interestingly, are now starting to take some measures, like they're trying to recognize a Palestinian state. Obviously it's peanuts. It's not freedom as they deserve, and they're not applying real pressure. But Spain, Italy, we have seen some measures coming into place, attempts to pressure Israel. Public opinion is changing. And I think you said in previous show that Zionism has to come under the spotlight now more than ever, because people will actually listen and acknowledge our points. Before, we could be dismissed as fringe anti-Semites and extremists.
Now even Piers Morgan's saying what we said.
Now even Piers Morgan, even Sky News are starting to grill people and are just rolling their eyes. I've seen their correspondents rolling their eyes at the claims that Israel is not shooting civilians, for example. No one believes that.
They should give Baldonati her job back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Where is she? She's disappeared. Is she in an Israeli dungeon? I don't know. We need to maybe start a campaign, Roshan. I think 5 Pillars might be her last hope. She's probably praying that we're going to come and find her wherever she is in some Israeli dungeon, because she just disappeared. Poor journalist. But yeah, obviously public opinion is changing.
Look, obviously it's heartening to see this is happening, but it's a bit too little too late, and it's quite sickening in a way that things that we were saying 2 years ago, and people were attacking us and people were losing their jobs for saying these kind of things. Now it's kind of become mainstream. But in a way that it hasn't stopped the genocide. Genocide is as bad as it ever was. People are starving.
Yeah.
We have this aid organization, this dodgy aid organization created by the US and Israel, distributing food, which they seem to be killing more people than actually giving out food. And it's just a cover for the fact that, there's forced starvation going on. They're not letting the UN do their job. The UN have the infrastructure in Gaza to distribute food effectively, which they did twice during ceasefires. They completely disregarded that because they had this ideological obsession that, some UNRWA employees may have been pro-Hamas, like 8 or 9 out of thousands, crazy stuff's going on, but the genocide happens. Yeah, Israel's becoming more unpopular, but I tend to think it's too little too late.
If this had happened anywhere else, there would be possibly, depending on the amount of oil in that region, a full-on regime change. Like, and the West would have gone in saying, yeah, we're here to liberate the locals and save them from this evil regime. If it was like an Arab dictator or something doing it, I'm sure they would have gone in, as long as it wasn't one of their proxies, they would have gone in and just regime changed. But because obviously it's the West that's doing this, and it's the West ally that's doing this, they're just turning the other cheek, totally turning the other cheek. I mean, they're seriously trying to say, despite this footage of people desperately scrambling to try and get any kind of food or resources that they can to survive, and this looks like, what, 100,000 people just scrambling for whatever bowl of rice they can get hold of. They're seriously saying they're not starving in Gaza.
I mean, it's like animals in a zoo, isn't it? I hate to describe Palestinians like that, but that's what it's like. It's just throwing, you go into a zoo and there's lions there. You just chuck a few morsels of meat and then all the lions attack, Treating human beings like that is absolutely disgusting, but that's what the Palestinians have been reduced to. I mean, how would you like your daughter or your sons to have to go through this, fight other Palestinians to get a morsel of bread or whatever it is?
Entire bloodlines have been lost, entire families are wiped out. I mean, this is an interview on Piers Morgan, since you mentioned, a Palestinian who I've met a few times.
Ahmed something.
So he basically he went on Piers Morgan finally. I think this is his first appearance, and he just detailed what's happened to his family, and it's just unbelievable, Roshan. I'll play a bit out now.
We lost him as well. I have no idea. I swear, but I just know that. Tell me some of them. I will tell you that on October 2023, my family were sleeping at their home. My father, my two brothers, my three sisters, and all of their children. 14 nieces and nephews were sleeping, and my cousin. And Israel just dropped a bomb on my family home, killing all of them. Killed all of them. All of them. My father, who was 75 years old. My brother, my younger brother, who was 25 years old, and he was so happy at that time he got scholarship to do his master's degree in Australia. My three sisters, one is a computer engineer, another one is an accountant, another one is a teacher. And 14 kids were slaughtered in my home, please. 14 kids, ranging from 2 to 13 years old. They all had lives, they had dreams, they had a future ahead of them. And they did not hurt the Israelis, did not cause them any damage. They were killed as they were sleeping. My brother-in-law, when he went to this home to retrieve the bodies of his children, he told me that he could not recognize the faces of his children because all of them were torn into body parts. My older sister, Wala, who was a computer engineer, they found the upper half of her body thrown in my neighbor's home. What did she do?
So just one of many harrowing accounts. I mean, this guy has lost pretty much his entire family. I mean, we're talking about dozens and dozens of cousins.
I'm surprised he can still operate, to be honest, and be so eloquent and coherent.
It's insane. It's unfathomable. I don't know how this has been normalized. I felt like this is something from the dark ages that we've moved on from, but this is the West after all, so I guess not.
I think, I really have... I never had that much trust in the West anyway. I've always been quite uncomfortable here. I've just found myself here and I'm trying to make the best of it and doing dawah to the best of my ability. But I think a lot of British Muslims, my friends and acquaintances, they had a level of trust in this country that it was decent to a certain extent. They had a lot of criticisms, but they found it was a fundamentally decent country. And I think that illusion has gone away over the last few years. To see the British public, now opinion has changed, but to see the British public support a genocide, vast swathes of the British public to support a genocide. Obviously the politicians, we know what they're like. The establishment, and to crack down on any dissent, and to have such a lack of humanity, given what we're seeing every day on our mobile phones. It makes you question everything about the country that we live in. Its institutions, its people, its humanity, and its media, which has been completely complicit, continues to be completely complicit, and we should give no credit to Piers Morgan, or to the BBC. The BBC had a debate this morning about, are Israel committing war crimes? And again, they're giving Israel, kind of 50-50%, the other point of view, the two sides point of view. The two sides point of view during a massacre and a genocide, it's obscene, absolutely obscene. I hate these journalists. I hate, even I pity any Muslim that is working in the BBC or for Sky News or for ITV, all these institutions. I mean, what are you doing there? Literally, what are you doing there? Have you no shame? This is the time where we need to, stick our flag in the ground and say who we are as Muslims and be counted. And you're working for Islamophobic organizations that are supporting a genocide, or at least excusing it. I mean, I don't know. I just question everything about this country now, Robert.
Yeah, it's insane how, like, journalists at the BBC will have to, if you challenge them and say something like, how can you be impartial when it comes to genocide? Like, how can you seriously say, well, they have a sort of, we have to understand their point of view. They're conducting a genocide for a reason, right? We have to understand that and kind of like give them their space to say what they have to say. Well,
let's give 50% to the Nazis then as well, yeah.
How could you seriously say that as someone who's apparently like a mainstream, like big-time journalist on a major organization? Like, journalists are not supposed to parrot state propaganda. That's not what journalism is supposed to be. But that's what it is now. And that's why alternative media, including, I think, Vipidas falls into that. It's just getting so much more views and respect because people just cannot stomach what the BBC and all of these fake mainstream journalists are all about. Great.
Zionists.
Yeah.
What's going on now?
They're attacking the show. Oh, that's a pain.
So the alarm's gone on. So do we have to leave? Should we give it a few minutes? Let's just wait. We are under attack from the Zionist entity. Freedom of speech. Where's our freedom of speech?
Ah!
That's Zippy hot. That's her voice.
Yeah,
oh, Zippy.
Advice from the embassy of Israel. We're so close to the end as well.
How many stories do we have left?
All right, there we go.
Should we finish
Hajj.
up before someone kicks us out?
Yeah, just Hajj. False alarm. Yeah, some.
Is it a false alarm?
Yeah, it's a false alarm.
Was it like a toaster? Someone with a toast has gone off or something like that?
Someone like, on the
some smoke.
Someone on the
Yeah, just continue. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Someone upstairs likes to put Bahor on.
Oh, right.
Like they just, I don't know why.
And it sets off the smoke alarm.
Yeah, and they just go for it, man. I mean, okay, yeah, fine. I like the smell, but yeah, it's a bit inconvenient when they disturb the show like that. I don't know if it is that.
I think let's wrap up reasonably quickly. So
yeah,
that,
Hajj 2025, obviously we're all gearing up for that now. Fantastic. But there is a lot going on in the Muslim world right now. So, a beautiful time of year is still marred by all of the issues that we're facing.
Yeah, so I mean, look, Hajj is due to begin, I think it's later today. And it will culminate, I don't know, Sunday or Monday or something like that. I think Eid is Friday, inshallah. So a blessed Eid in advance to all our viewers and readers. Eid Mubarak to you all. May you have a blessed day with your families, full of joy and ibadah. Yeah, I've got not much to say. I just didn't want to end the show without talking about Hajj. Maybe next week we'll talk more about it. Alhamdulillah, I've been on Hajj twice in my life, quite a long time ago now. My last Hajj was, I think, 14 years ago. And I did one about 17 years ago. One for myself and one for my deceased father. May Allah have mercy on him. And alhamdulillah, obviously, it's a wonderful experience. You get, it's the one time in your life where you get to just focus on ibadah, on no distractions. And that's the most wonderful thing about it. I'm not an emotional person, as you know, Robert, and I even kind of look down on men, especially that cry for no reason. But even I got very emotional when I saw the Kaaba for the first time in my life. And that's the most wonderful thing about Hajj is that you have 2 or 3 weeks where you can just literally focus on your prayer and your dua, your salawat, and beg. Focus on your sins and beg Allah with, such sincerity and ikhlas to forgive your sins and, renew your life, a rebirth. So that's the best thing about it. There are many negatives as well. When I went, it was quite dangerous. I think things have improved. There were too many pilgrims, I think, in such a small space. And the jamarats, where you throw the stones at the devil, I mean, people were throwing, I don't know whether this happens now, brothers and sisters, but people were chucking slippers and all kinds of things and bricks and I don't know. And they were throwing stones from so far back, they were actually hitting pilgrims on the head.
No way.
Not the Jamaraats, but the pilgrims. And people used to die needlessly on Hajj with the overcrowding and, you know, the lack of knowledge amongst the Hajjaj as well about how to behave in a calm way, basically. And the best thing that you learn, the thing that you learn the most from Hajj is the sabr, you know, the patience, because you're in queues right from the beginning, and you have to have that sabr. Otherwise, you know, that patience that we would lose very quickly here, there, if you lose it, then it's obviously you don't want to lose it in the holiest place on earth.
Yeah.
What else? I would say that there's still quite a lot of inequality on the Hajj. I think, you know, there's people that do 5-star Hajj. I've always never been totally comfortable with the 5-star Hajj thing that's going on. I think if you go, brothers and sisters, make sure it's like a 3-star Hajj. I think obviously us Westerners are a bit spoilt, so we need some creature comforts just to get through it. But I would avoid the 5-star Hajj if I were you. But I think it's against the spirit. Obviously, I don't like the clock tower. You know, Makkah, you know, 100 years ago was a beautiful Islamic city. I think the Saudis have spoilt it architecturally. They've overshadowed the Kaaba with their freeways. It looks like an American city to a large extent now. It's too expensive. It's becoming prohibitively expensive. When I went, it was about £3,000 per person, which I thought was a lot then. But now it's like £8,000 for a very, you know, 3-star Hajj. And who can afford that, quite frankly? Who can afford it? And I think it's becoming, I think people perhaps that have been on Hajj once or twice before, they don't need to go again, really. Maybe they can fund others to go. Rather than going 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. I would like to see more people. Maybe we could have a fund in this country, a Hajj fund. The poorer people that could never dream on going on Hajj, they can. I'm happy to give money and put it into that fund.
That's a nice
idea. So that poorer people. I've been on Hajj. I don't have to do it again. Alhamdulillah, I've done my Hajj, done my wajib. I'd love to go on Umrah again, but I don't need to go on Hajj.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm happy to put a bit of money aside, and I think millions of people would be happy to do that as well.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
To let people go on Hajj.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Or if we had something that like rewarded our community heroes as well, like me. But no, I'm joking.
Yeah, no, inshallah, you should go on Hajj, Robert. You and your family.
Inshallah, yeah, I will. I haven't been.
Send Robert on Hajj.
Yeah,
he's donate. I pay a minimum wage.
Donate for poor Rob now. But yeah, I think imagine if we had something where, like, I don't know, some great. Doesn't even have to be an activist or a journalist. It could be like a teacher, like a Muslim teacher who is, or a dawah activist.
Yeah.
Some young activist who's converted like 100 Brits. Let's just like get him over there. You know, but yeah, just that's a good idea. That's a good
just
idea.
An ordinary person that has no hope of doing this because they're poor, you know.
Yeah, it's becoming harder to.
But I think we should. I don't know. Tell us, brothers and sisters, what you think. I think actually we should. We're growing now, and I think we probably should have a media representative on Hajj every year. And you know, you got first dibs on that because I've done my Hajj, alhamdulillah. I'm sure Dilly might argue over that, but Dilly's had quite a lot of foreign trips. I'd like to send you on Hajj, you know, maybe next year. You know, as a 5 Pillars correspondent, you can do your Hajj, you can also report.
Nice.
And inshallah, maybe we could, I don't know whether we should fundraise specifically for that, but I think we're reaching the stage now that we are an established British Muslim institution and organisation. Alhamdulillah, the Ummah is supporting us more, and I think we should have someone on Hajj every year.
Oh, well, that sounds good to me, brothers and sisters. Yeah, please do keep supporting 5 Pillars then and get me over there and get us where we need to be, whether it be Hajj or anywhere else. But yeah, I think that is a true point. Obviously, we do want to be where the action is, and I think we are delivering, but maybe we do need to be more in the Muslim world. You know, we've been to Afghanistan a few times.
Yes.
We have been to Syria. So, yeah, I think that we always want to grow, but we're doing good work at the same time. But just keep supporting us, brothers and sisters.
And I think on the supporting thing, I know it's not Ramadan anymore, but I think I watched a lecture which inspired me a little bit. Just to, you know, if you don't already understand, brothers and sisters, the power of the media, you know, every single state recognizes the power of the media as a soft power to deliver their message, which ultimately leads to policy change. Every single community group, the Jews, the Hindus, the whatever, they realize the power of the media. Why do Muslims not take media more seriously? We are the only, I would say we are the only Islamic journalism institute in the whole world operating in the English language. What a disgrace is that?
Yeah.
That we don't have this soft power. And I know the Ummah does support us, and I know the people, especially that watch this show and Dilly shows, they do. So it's not you, but you need to get the message out to your families, to your acquaintances, that we need a media superpower to project Islam, to promote Islam, defend Islam on the entire world stage.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
5 pillars, brothers and sisters, whether you like us or don't like us, we are where it's at. It is the only thing. We are the only serious attempt to do that in terms of proper quality journalism.
Yeah, it's true.
So get the word out, brothers and sisters. We can't wait any longer.
And we're different from like Al Jazeera, for example, because ultimately their message is to push the Qatari worldview out there.
They're a secular channel. They're not an Islamic channel.
Yeah, I know. So
they'll be doing LGBT one day.
I know people might turn around and say, "Well, we've got Al Jazeera. They're got big money."
No.
But it's not the same thing. It's not
the same
Islamic journalism. It's not journalism of a Muslim ethos, Islamic ethos. So yeah, there you go, brothers and sisters. But I think we've covered a lot of ground here on this episode, and inshallah we will be back next week. I will be going to Vienna. But I think I'll be back in time for Muslims Uncensored, so we should be able to carry on.
That's
with
a
the
work
show,
trip, by the way. It's not,
yeah, sorry, it's not a holiday trip.
Can we say what you're going for? Or?
Yeah, I think so. There's a big story. We've actually reported on it in the lead up to it. There's a anti-Zionist Jewish Congress being held in Vienna, in Austria, and the significance of that is not just to condemn and undermine Zionism from a Jewish angle, but because obviously that is where Zionism, there was a Zionist Congress held many years ago in that area as well. And Austria has strong links to the founders of Zionism. So there is a lot of messaging there. It should do quite well. I think it's going to be a big story. Austria is also quite prominent, quite notorious for its crackdown on pro-Palestine free speech and activism. So we're going to see how we're received over there. But I think it's a good story, and it definitely sends the right messages out there. It's going to upset the Zionists. That's what I look forward to the most. It'll really wind them up.
When is that? That's next week, is it? Or
yeah, so
next weekend.
Yes. So after this, I've got to probably get out there Thursday or Friday.
So we're not going to miss Muslims Uncensored.
So Muslims Uncensored, the week after that, I should be back as well. That's what I meant. Right. So yeah, don't worry. Keep tuning in to Muslims Uncensored and support us any way you can. And we'll continue to bring you all the stories and action that you want to see from across the Muslim world. But thank you very much. And until next time, it's Salamu Alaikum and Ma Salama for now.